Does anybody have a question for anybody that's a part of the show tonight that I didn't ask? Anybody?
Oh my goodness.
Okay, go. Ian's got a question. What's your question?
The artwork you do on the photographs, does that exist in the real world?
Okay, so the question is the artwork on Jaiye's photographs, does that exist in the real world, or is that just something?
I've seen the stuff, but then I turn away, it's gone.
Yeah.
Yes, it does. This, I like to call it mark making, definitely came from hands-on experiences. I actually started creating this style of artwork from putting paint inside an icing bag. I used to work at a bakery, and I used to have to like decorate cakes and cookies and stuff. So yeah, one time that's how I stumbled into it, and then ever since then it's just kind of like changing the instruments I use. And so whether it's a paintbrush, spray paint, I use anything I can. And I have a permanent public mural on Northeast 23rd on the side of the new grocery store they built over there, right before MLK. So yes, it does exist in the real world.
Does that piece exist anywhere?
Does the Jimi Hendrix piece exist in the real world? Yes, it does, because it's in here, but it is digitally adorned, right? So you could say like, no, it doesn't. 100 years from now, people might not even know that I had anything to do with this picture. But I know I got to collaborate with Jimi Hendrix, and I'm gonna live on with that in my heart. So
That's great. Any other questions for anybody? Yes, Sarah.
I had a very specific question. I know our poet mentioned Homeland. I would like you to mention Albertsons.
I miss Albertsons.
As someone who grew up in Norman, you said Homeland, and I was like, Albertsons, and now I'm just gonna let you go.
I hate to say it, but frankly now our grocery stores are kind of the lowest common denominator. And Albertsons was a wonderful store. And
Well, Skaggs.
Skaggs, Alpha Beta even before. I also have a poem about Walmart. I did not read that.
I'm sure it's too obscene to present. What about Food Lion?
Actually, my Walmart poem is about a species of bird that you might see at Walmart. I personally have not been inside Walmart since 1987.
Icon. That's beautiful. I love that. Anybody else with a question? Anybody? Here's my question for all of you, and anybody can answer that you want to. I know your answer already. Do you consider yourself weird?
Yes. Yes. That's a weird answer, I feel like. No, I like to consider myself weird. I think I've been weird forever. I used to dance in front of the TV to the Jeopardy theme. My mom tells me that all the time. It's an inclination. And I also, I'm a teacher as well as these things that I do. And I've always liked to think that I teach weird. And I have students that are sometimes like, you're kind of a weird teacher. And I'm like, yeah. And the way you've kind of spoken about weird, and everyone's kind of spoken about weird, I think weird is one of those things where sometimes you get imposter syndrome with your weird, and you're like, I need to be more normal right now. I remember being a young teacher thinking I should really be more like the other teachers. That will make me better. And then you kept getting positive reinforcement from your fellow teachers or your students or whatever that are like, keep doing what you're doing. And so when you get other weird people that help kind of shore up your weird, it just kind of makes it feel more special and warm and things like that. Yeah.
I love that.
Yeah.
I feel like we got just like a little warm, weird love ball going tonight, and I'm very happy about that. That's wonderful.
I don't think I'm weird, but I know that I am. But the way I am doesn't seem weird to me. Mm-hmm. It's only other people who say, you're weird.
Yes.
That's so all the claps for that, all the claps for that, and the snaps for that. My significant other is an artist, and I call him weird, and then he calls me a freak. And actually, he says very often, I'm not weird. The world is weird. I'm just fine. And he says that all the time. And I take that with me places because I know what you're talking about, that imposter syndrome where you're trying to be very unique and different, but sometimes there can be a crushing pressure to fall in line and you feel very awful or awkward as you try to not fall in line or to fall in line. So all of the spaces we can make where we can just do whatever, good. Hit it.
Kind of a different perspective, but I don't know if you could tell. I'm a brown woman. I'm a Latina. I'm actually a transplant as well. I'm actually from Dallas, Texas, and my husband came here at Tinker Air Force Base. And it's interesting because when you look at the history of, I like to say, we didn't cross the border crossed us. So people ask me, and I didn't. That's not my line, guys. I stole that from Paul Rodriguez. It's not mine. I don't take credit for it. But it's interesting because people will ask me, like, where are you from? And I'll be like, Dallas, Texas. And they're like, oh, no, really, where are you from? And I'm like, okay, southeast Dallas, Texas. And the people always think I'm from Oaxaca or one of those places, and I'm not. I'm like 7th generation Mexican-American. But, you talk about being weird. When you look at, and this is a totally different take on it, when in my history, there was forced assimilation. I don't speak Spanish because my grandmother was told not to speak Spanish to her children because you were in America. And so then my mom spoke perfect American English to me so that I would speak English perfectly and nobody could look down their nose at me. But then that meant I lost the language. So I come from a history of assimilation and be normal. And so I carry that with me until I got into, I would say, my 30s. And then I was like, this is boring. Because I didn't dance to the Jeopardy theme song, but I did use a jump rope as a microphone because I'm a singer as well. And so, and those things, and kind of just fully embracing kind of my artistic side and then understanding that being artistic and allowing those things to come out is wonderful. So in the same way, do I think I'm weird? No, I think I'm artistic. But if you poll my family, they're going to be like, she's the weird one, completely. But it's nice to be free from the bonds of assimilation that have followed me in my genealogy and my history and everything like that. So it's kind of that breaking out and being like, no, I carry this is also a Latina story, and who I am today, and this is it, and it's just as valid as the child of an immigrant or anybody who's crossing the border right now. They're all valid Latin stories. So.
Thank you for adding that, because there's a very interesting part of weird as different that can also veer into the othered category, and that's a very important layer to the discussion of weirdness or strangeness. So thank you for adding that story. Really important. Anybody else up here? We good?
Talking about weird?
Talking about weird? All right, you want to talk about weird?
I can speak on weird.
Speak on weird? Speak on weird.
I felt like growing up skateboarding, like it was always perceived alternative, and I think I wasn't always like, oh, it's weird. It's like it was other, it was something like, oh, everybody doesn't like this. This is I think I always just disguised the word weird with niche, It's not weird, it's just niche,
Yeah, absolutely. I do love that about the time now, and I have a 15 and a half year old. It's a very important half. There is almost a driver's permit. But this fracturing of bubbles, if you will, these places we can exist in are very freeing, and I am so glad for my kid in this time that they're coming of age in, where there are spaces where they can find themselves that don't feel like, I'm old, so when you... Like in my world, growing up here in Norman, and I grew up here in Norman, there were just, there were like 3 choices. And that was it. If you weren't a part of those three choices, you were most definitely weird. So yeah, weird. All right, well, I think that's our conversation about weird. Thanks, guys.
Yay!
Appreciate it. Thank you for your questions. Thank you. Appreciate it. All right, we're gonna reset and